fact. I remember when I did an event with Nas down in Norfolk State, and they were like, make sure you don't have Nas talk about his song about having a black president. Like, we don't want to associate ourselves with that. And that really bled into the psyche and the thinking of the people around Barack Obama, you know, and it affected the decisions that were made. Now, when you think that the president is above race and therefore he is above black, that influences everything he does. And so I remember being in those rooms.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So as you are very well aware, this election season, I tell you what, it's been one of the most revealing, I would say, that I have ever seen, especially coming from Democrats. I mean, Republicans, we already know what time it is. We know what they're about. But, you know, again, they're just one side of the same machine. When you look at Democrats have really shown themselves in the contempt that they have towards black people who do not support them. And it's just been really eye-opening and quite revealing. You know, we've been talking about on this platform, not just us, but many other people as well, including many of you guys, have been pointing out just how they have been, the disrespect that they have been showing towards specifically black men, you know, who do not want to jump on their particular bandwagon. And the voices that have been leading the charges on this are people like Joy Reid, Sonny Holston, Roland Martin, D.L. Hughley, Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, Mark Lamont Hill, and many others. Now, I'm just going to throw in Kamala Harris in there simply because, again, she waits till 3 weeks out and says, okay, it's like she's got to be strong-armed into doing something, or at least acknowledging black men, you know, and the needs of black men. And but I would even go farther and say the specific unique needs of black Americans. And she waits until 3 weeks out, and all of a sudden she's going to drop this thing, only to look at it and see that all she did was just added black men here, there, and then she seasoned it with and others, you know. So that was pretty much it. But it was nothing unique when it comes to speaking to the specific needs exclusively. That's the key now. Not no and other stuff. We're not talking about that, but exclusively black Americans. If you can do it for Jewish people, if you can do it for some of these other groups, you can certainly do it for black Americans. And so anyway, what's the common thread with all of those names that I just mentioned? I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Well, all of them, if you didn't catch it by now, they're all part of fraternities and sororities, black fraternities and sororities. But on this video, I want to point out to you two people actually who are also part of that group. However, their stories are a little bit different. The first person I'm gonna bring up is a gentleman that many of you guys know, Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley was someone that, if you remember back in the day, I mean, he was not just up and coming, he was becoming a standard when it comes to news commentary and, you know, talking about politics and things like that. He was definitely becoming the standard when it, and I would say to a measure he was for a season, you know, during those days. And he was up and coming, he was rising, he was doing good, and then he got his show on PBS. And then I think they Me Too'd him, if I'm not mistaken. It was some woman that came from somewhere said that, you know, he did something inappropriate or whatever. And then the next thing I know, I don't, you know, he wasn't rising like he was before. I think his show got canceled on PBS. But since then, he did go and buy an AM station in LA. So he's actually the owner of a radio station. So he's still doing stuff. So what I want to play for you is a clip. He did 10 reasons. He did like a list of 10 different reasons, had something to do with Obama and why he was for the most part completely off on his approach to black men. And he went through 1 through 10. So we're not going to play 1 through 10. But what I will do is go right to number 10, because I want you to hear what he had to say on that specifically. And then after that, his first caller was an Obama insider. I want you to hear what she had to say, in response to that. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say, in regards to how Obama really missed the mark and how he approached black men.
That's a dialogue, not a monologue, where your tone is suspect and your decibel level keeps rising as you try unsuccessfully to connect with the folk you're speaking to in the room. And the number one reason black folks should not have been surprised at Barack Obama's smackdown is because this is not some new or strange phenomenon. Let me put it this way. If you were surprised by Barack Obama's comments last week, I can tell you who was more surprised. Care to guess? Barack Obama. I know he is still scratching his head. I've been talking down to these Negroes for 15 years. Now they're going to act all brand new like they don't know me? Help me, Holy Ghost. No, y'all know who I am. I'm the one who at the Congressional Black Caucus dinner told y'all to stop whining, stop crying, stop complaining. Take off your slippers and go do something. I'm the same one who admonished black men during my commencement address at Dr. King's alma mater, Morehouse College. Somebody rescue me if I'm wrong. I'm the same one who gave black men the business at a black church on the south side of Chicago, wait for it, on Father's Day. Y'all know who I am. I'm the one who sang Amazing Grace in South Carolina. I'm the one who broke y'all off some Al Green at the Apollo in Harlem. Now you acting all funny style. Y'all Negroes know me. I'm the one who told you repeatedly, I am not the president of black America. I'm the president of all America. Y'all Negroes are killing me.
Well, I mean, was there anything at all he said in there that wasn't true? I mean, he's absolutely true. And it's something that I remember how the Congressional Black Caucus, Maxine Waters, I remember her specifically saying that, listen, we would criticize him, but you black folks, talking to black folks again, saying, that you black folks basically will come after us if we dare try to hold him accountable to anything. This was what Maxine Waters said. So it was during that time that black people were so enamored with the fact of having someone that looked like them sitting in the White House. Black people were willing to just overlook just about anything. And now, after the fact, coming to the conclusion and realizing that we really didn't get too much out of that, did we? Well, you were not crazy in your assessment, because here we have a former White House insider under the Obama administration who heard what Tavis Smiley was just saying, and she decided to give him a call. I want you to take a listen to what she had to say and what she was told on how they were to treat him and the whole issue of race, period. Let's take a listen.
Let's talk politics with the former communications director for Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and Kamala Harris, Ashley Entienne. Ashley, good to have you on this program. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. I should mention that Ashley is currently the CEO of Etienne and Saint, and I am pleased to have her on this program. Kamala Harris, of late, has been on a media tour, Ashley, as you well know, appearances on 60 Minutes, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Howard Stern, The View, the list goes on. Before I get to all of that in detail, let me just ask you what you have made so far of the way she's handled this media tour. There was push, as you know, against her that she wasn't doing enough interviews, wasn't getting out there enough. Well, she answered that question with a whole litany of conversations. I just ran down some of them. What's your sense of how she did or has done?
Well, I think she's been doing spectacular, but if you don't mind, I'd love to step back to your opening monologue about my former boss, Barack Obama.
Sure.
Can I just tell you what I do appreciate about you most is that you bring all of the receipts. And I think a lot of it people were unaware of and probably hadn't taken stock of. And when you hear it back to back to back to back, it paints this really clear picture. The one thing I wanted to add is you're absolutely right about the sentiment that was within the White House. I was on the 08 campaign and then transitioned eventually into the Obama White House. And there was a sense, a clear message that was sent to us on the staff that Obama is above race, that he has ascended race, and we are not to talk about him. I mean, this is the unspoken part of it all. and I'm just going to say it out loud, which is, we are not to talk about him as a black man. In fact, I remember when I did an event with Nas down in Norfolk State, and they were like, make sure you don't have Nas talk about his song about having a black president. Like, we don't want to associate ourselves with that. And that really bled into the psyche and the thinking of the people around Barack Obama, and it affected the decisions that were made. Now, when you think that the president is above race and therefore he is above black, that influences everything he does. And so I remember being in those rooms begging for more attention after Michael Brown died, right? A visit to the family, a call to the family. I mean, doing more at each one of these points. And we just got ran into a brick wall. And it was primarily because of the people he had surrounded himself with, who he's now sent over to Kamala Harris's campaign. But the sentiment there was, we're above that. And so any concerns of the community, we're above even addressing in a lot of ways. And so that was really hurtful as, a person who's black first and a woman second and a Democrat way down the line. But so I'm glad you actually put all of that stuff together, because it really is important as we talk about what kind of a leader we want. Now, if we transition to the vice president,
hold that thought. We ain't gonna transition that fast. I did not want. So as you can see, I've been at this a long time, Ashley, as you well know, and it is not my way to put up on people to comment on my own commentaries. I did not want to put you in a spot. Didn't want to put you in a box. As you saw, I went straight to Kamala and did not intend to pull you into my opining today. But since you went there,
no, but you were absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the last one through the door.
He was, yeah.
Explain that, please, sir. Right?
Yeah, but
Then made an argument. And then made an argument, not to be disrespectful, all due respect to my former boss, but then it made an argument against her that was made against him.
That's right.
Which is that maybe she's not ready.
That's
and I'm
right.
like, are you really using that same argument?
That's right.
I thought, okay, sorry, go ahead.
And let me stop that. She brought up a very good point. If anything, and they'll bring this up later, black men were already in line to support Kamala way before Obama decided to do it. You remember how they were pulling and begging for Obama to come in, and when is he going to give his support, and when is he going to give his support? And they were already leaking that Obama felt that she wasn't even prepared or rather qualified to run. That's what the media was reported, that Obama, he wasn't quite feeling her. But you already had black men that were already lined up and were in her rah-rah section before he was. But then he comes in later, and now all of a sudden he wants to admonish black men for not standing up for her. But what happened to you? You weren't even feeling her. What was that? Anyway, I'll let her finish.
You keeping it real, Ashley. That's what this program is all about. We are trying to tell the truth. Speak the truth to the powerful and to the powerless, but that's what it's about. Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. And too many Negroes listening right now even are still in their feelings. I'm looking at text messages and emails from my friends, from my colleagues, still in their feelings, even when you bring the receipts. Some people don't want to face the truth. I digress. I love y'all anyway, and there ain't nothing you can do about it, but you're wrong. Having said that, I did not realize that you were going to come the way you came with the truth that you just told. So I want to probe that just for a few minutes, if I might.
Sure.
How do you, looking back on it all these years later, square, how do you juxtapose that when he wanted to, he wrapped himself in blackness because he knew that he had these Negroes in his pocket. So when he wanted to, he wrapped himself in this cloak of blackness. But on the inside, what you're telling us is that y'all were telling him he has ascended above race. Don't put him in a racial frame. Don't let Nas talk about the black president. Don't do this. Don't do that. No, we ain't going to St. Louis with Michael Brown. We're not doing that. He is above race. He's transcended race. We ain't talking about race. We're not putting him in that frame. But every other day when he shows up, as I said at the Apollo, and sings Al Green, race. Amazing Grace at the Black Church, race. I can do this all day long. So explain to me how you process looking back on it, that he was doing the double dirty, as my grandfather would say, the double dirty. You embrace yourself in black when it's advantageous, but the bigger frame is we have transcended race. How do you square those two things?
I mean, it's complicated. And
yeah.
I never heard that phrase by your grandfather. That's pretty
the double
provocative.
dirty, yeah.
Right, I never heard that one before. But I think two things can be true at the same time.
Okay.
I think the president is very black. He's aware of his blackness.
Nope.
I think, he sees himself obviously as a black man primarily. Nope. And I think he loves black people and loves black culture. No doubt about that. Mm-hmm. I think the problem, though, becomes that when you surround yourself with people who don't have an appreciation for that don't understand that. Mm-hmm. What was probably most disappointing to me was that the people around him understood that the fire he was getting from the right was all about racism.
That's right.
They understood that, but they weren't transformed by it. You know what I mean? They weren't transformed to the point at which they treated black people on the staff differently, or where they said, maybe we should consider going to the funeral, or where they said, instead of, telling the president after Michael Brown died, go to the podium and speak to black people, they didn't understand that he needed to go to the podium and speak for black people. It's those small nuances that I think make the difference, and that really, I think, created this divide between Obama and the black community, and black men specifically. I mean, we did My Brother's Keeper initiative in the White House. Sure. I mean, that was incredibly profound, groundbreaking, mm-hmm. Probably bordered on somewhat illegal to some degree, but he took had the guts, the gumption, and the courage to move down that path despite what people thought, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
But it is this notion that you have the people around you who I think are keeping you in a box and creating this divide because of their own conditioning. I mean, it really is. It gets back. That's why I said it's quite complicated to square the two. But I think you're right to keep bringing it out because we also have to. There's a lot he has to speak for and answer to, and I think that's where you ended. Like maybe he needs to have a town hall where he's in conversation with black men about how he made an evolution, and about his own failures as president. I don't know that he's addressed that, and I think people, especially mainstream media, haven't had an appreciation for that. That he carries his own baggage with black people.
As I said, Ashley, I would have loved to have seen him in a town hall setting, talking with black men, in conversation with them, and the media would have eaten that up. A very different conversation. Again, what he gave us was monologue and talking down to Negroes. I'm looking for a dialogue, engaging black men. He missed the mark, and he missed it badly. When we come forward with Ashley Entienne, I want to probe the other point she just made now, which is, and I echoed this, I said this earlier, that the team that helped run his campaign quite successfully, let me be very clear, I ain't a hater. Barack Obama ran the best campaign I've ever seen in my life. That Negro killed it. His campaign staff, they worked that thing like nobody's business. It was almost flawless the way they ran that campaign. Not quite, but almost. But now that same team that told him to stay away from race, you've transcended it, is in Kamala's ear.
There you go.
To me. We'll talk about that when we come forward.
There you go. And that's the point. That's the point. Because that's exactly what's happening right now. Because there's nowhere in the world you had people who really have black people in heart and the needs of black people. There's nowhere in the world that they would have allowed for that administration / her whole team, that's the campaign, to put the needs of black people on the far back burner. And then wait until 3 weeks before the actual election. Now, all of a sudden, you want to come out and then you want to say something. They're already letting you know how her administration is going to roll. It's going to be more Obama. It's going to be more of that, where she transcends race. Now, all of a sudden, she's back to being Indian again. She's back to being every other race. And then black people, she'll come into a black church every now and then and talk about her collard green story and how she had to make a whole bunch of collard greens in the bathtub. Who came up with that one? I don't even know, because every black person I talked to about that was rolling their eyes and looking funny, like ain't no black people do anything like that. But that tells, just little things like that tell you already that the people that are literally talking in her ear, them earrings, they do not have the true interests of black people in heart. They don't. But I thought this was an interesting, these are some interesting dialogues that's happening even amongst people who, who are part of a larger team of people who have, in my estimation, have kind of sold themselves out and have been talking down on black people for not falling in line. But here you got two examples of people who may be a part of that crew, but they have to acknowledge and admit that, no, the way this is going, it's not right at all. It's definitely something very wrong with this. So for that, I can appreciate that. But I just wanted to share that with you. And thank you so much for tuning in. We got some more coming up. We're going to be following up with what's going on down in Conyers in a little bit. So I got some more testimonies of people who are also complaining about, symptoms and things like that. You're not going to want to miss that, because we're staying on top of that story. And man, I tell you, it's really something. So, but again, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time.